Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week, my guest is Blake Harris, and he is a nationally recognized attorney and founder of Blake Harris Law. Welcome.
Gary, great to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Certainly. So, Blake, what made you become attorney? What's the background? What got you into that?
What made me become an attorney? Okay, so we're not going to jump right into the asset protection.
No. That's next.
Portion yet. Well, I wish I had a better backstory than this, but I come from a family of attorneys. There's about 7 of us in my immediate family that are in the legal that are attorneys. I had the desire to actually go make a lot of money on Wall Street, so I got an undergraduate degree in finance. And about the time I was graduating, I got informed that I'm welcome to continue to come to Thanksgiving dinner, but that's only if I continue with my studies and get a law degree. So I said, well, I think this is something worth considering.
Right.
And so I went to law school and found my career ending up being a crossover between both law and finance. And we can talk more about that here.
Yeah, definitely. So, in going through this, got your law degree and everything, and now you're doing a lot of asset protection for business owners and individuals. What is it about that asset protection side of things that really gets you fired up? Because a lot of people are kind of like, oh, what does that mean, and don't understand it. But what is it that get you fired up about it, and tell us exactly what, when you say asset protection, exactly what does that mean?
So asset protection is the process of rearranging your financial affairs so that in the event of a lawsuit, you're in a better position than you'd be without the asset protection structure. The legal industry is overwhelmingly run by 2 groups of people: plaintiffs' attorneys and defense attorneys. And there's nothing more that they want than to see more litigation and more people drag through the stress, the time, the cost associated with the lawsuit. It helps plaintiffs' attorneys, it helps defense attorneys, it helps law schools, it helps the legal market overall. But what it doesn't do is help the people. It doesn't help the masses. It doesn't help the small business owners who just want to grow their business and avoid ending up and spending their time in the courtroom. What I focus on is doing exactly that: proactive planning, so that our clients are less likely to get sued. And if they end up getting sued, they're less likely to have to pay over a judgment. There are millions of lawsuits filed every single year in the United States. There are billions of dollars ordered to be paid out in judgments every few days. By taking the time to plan properly, even just a few hours of asset protection planning can do more to protect most estates, many estates at least, than decades of working in some circumstances.
So, again, going back to the asset protection side of things, what are some of the common mistakes that business owners are making when it comes to the asset protection?
So here's the biggest mistake. People don't think they have enough assets to justify setting up a full asset protection plan. And when I say a full asset protection plan, that may include some number of LLCs, perhaps an offshore bank account, but it always rests on an asset protection trust, a self-settled trust. And there's domestic trust and there's international trust. But a lot of people think that you don't really need to be setting up these structures until your net worth is in excess of $10 million or in excess of $50 million. The reality is most lawsuits are being filed against individuals whose net worth is under $2 million. So if you have just a few $100,000, it may be worthwhile to have the conversation of what can we do to put ourselves in a better position for when a lawsuit comes. Because if you're successful enough in America, you can expect at some point in time to be sued.
Right. For I'm going to say that common person, that may not have a business, just their regular run-of-the-mill W-2 job and so forth, is asset protection something that they need to worry about also?
Well, it depends on several factors. Asset level is definitely one of the things we consider. And at minimum, you want a few $100,000. Most of our clients, though, usually have $1 million plus, though we do have some with less than $1 million. But there's other criteria that we look at as well. The client's individual risk profile. If they're in a high-risk industry, if their marriage is on the rocks, if they have children who drive cars in their name, if they just live a risky lifestyle or take on a lot of risk in business, then they would be an elevated person. There'd be a person who would be more beneficial. They'd get more benefits from the structure. Also, we have to look at the client's individual risk tolerance. If lawsuits stress this person out, if the thought of being sued makes them worry, simply having the structure in place, even if it's never needed, gives the client peace of mind and confidence about running their business. And so they're not behind that 8 ball of fear, threatened each time a lawsuit gets threatened or each time a lawsuit gets filed. And then finally, there's the optics of it. Can we present this as an appropriate time to a judge for us to have created an asset protection plan? If the individual is just generally concerned about lawsuits, if they operate their own business, they are aware that they could get drug into a lawsuit that they may not even be liable, but due to the way our legal system works, they may end up having to pay a judgment or just paying a settlement to make the creditor go away. On the other hand, if you've got somebody who is already facing indictment, they are running from the government, they've done something illegal, they're not going to be a great candidate for asset protection, regardless of whether the other criteria are met. So there's several things that we look for, and it's not just asset level, but that is one of the considerations.
In going through, you talk about, the with the kids and the kids driving, your vehicles or whatever with that. Is this something when you do that asset protection, if you were to put a plan together for me, does that carry into my kids? Or is this just kind of a single generation type thing?
Good question. The trust can last forever. So upon your passing, your children will present your death certificate to the trustee, and then your children can step in as the beneficiary or whoever you would like as the successor beneficiary. So the trust can last for generations. Sometimes what we will do is work in conjunction with a local estate planning attorney who creates a revocable living trust. And then the client's Cook Islands trust or offshore trust would then distribute to the revocable trust when the clients pass away. So the at-death distributions can either be included in the original Cook Islands offshore trust, or that offshore trust can be synced together with an estate planning trust.
So sounds like this could get very, very confusing for somebody very quickly. How do you guys help people overcome that piece of it? Because again, many times, I've had it where, you're trying to paint this big picture for the client and they just get overwhelmed with it because they don't understand it themselves. How do you guys help people overcome that?
You're absolutely right, Gary. Offshore trust is one of the most complex technical areas of the law, filled with landmines. And if you don't have proper guidance, it is going to be confusing and it is going to be stressful. However, this is the reason that so many clients choose to work with our law firm, because of our ability to articulate to the clients what it is we're setting up for them, how they're going to use it, and then guiding them throughout the entire process. So what I think that I do very well and my team does very well is explain to the clients in terms that they can understand. And when evaluating which law firm to work with, this is something that really should be top of mind. How comfortable do you feel communicating with this attorney? Because if litigation arises, you're probably going to be sticking with the same attorney throughout the process, and you want to be very comfortable with their communication style.
So, I mean, we see all of this stuff on social media about all these different people that are out there that are recommending all this different stuff. How do you figure out, which ones are real and which ones are fake, and who you should talk to and who you shouldn't?
So I would say that there's basically two categories of attorneys in this space. Now, there are some non-attorneys who kind of get in here, and I can talk more about that in a moment. But in terms of asset protection planning, you've got two main options. You have the domestic trust and you have the offshore trust. The downside of the offshore trust is it costs a little bit more, not a lot more, but a little bit more than a domestic trust, and it does need to be reported to the IRS. It doesn't increase your taxes. It does not increase your chance of an audit. The downside to domestic trust is they don't work, not nearly as well as an offshore trust. A domestic trust can be disregarded by a U.S. court, and so therefore you're not going to get the same negotiation leverage, and your assets still remain at risk. So within the asset protection world, I'd first say focus on finding something in the offshore world. Well, I can make that decision a little bit easier. My law firm, I'm quite sure, created more Cook Islands Trust than any other law firm over the past few years. We have the largest team exclusively focused on offshore asset protection planning. We've never once lost a penny for a client, and we teach continuing legal education to other attorneys in the field. So I'd really say start out by talking to us, start out by talking to whoever you think is the best in the industry, and then work your way down from there. There's other people that may be worth speaking with, but definitely find a firm that gives you a lot of confidence. There is a particular competitor in the industry that is a scam artist, and he's been running a scam for a long time. And to help clean up the asset protection industry, I filed a federal lawsuit against him and his various companies. He goes by the street name The Business Guy and operates a variety of different entities, such as Asset Protection Planners, Words Limited, and a few others. You can read all about the lawsuit and the reason that I'm calling him a con man and a fraud at The Business Guy is a fraud.com. I said that one more time. The Business Guy is a fraud.com. We have a federal lawsuit filed against him. Looks like he's been hiding from service for some time, but he's just accepted service. And so that's definitely one person in the industry I highly recommend staying away from.
I guess, what is it that he's doing that is a fraud? Because I think
Sure.
again, I think a lot of people are going to have a hard time still
Well,
understanding.
let's run through it. Number one,
Yeah.
he's been lying about his experience. He claims he's been in the industry for 30 years. His own YouTube channel, until we called him out for it, showed 12 years ago he's running a pawn shop. Number two, he's been lying about his firm's experience. He claims his firm's been around since 1906. The Cook Islands did not have an International Trust Act until the mid 1980s. He lies about his own name. His real name is Kevin Wessel. On LinkedIn, which I think he may have removed by now, he said Bill Williams, which is a made-up name. It sounds like a made-up name, is the CEO and went to Harvard. So he's lied about his experience. He's lied about his company's experience. He's lied about his own name. He's also trying to cover up his past, where he lied to investors and stole millions of dollars from investors. On top of that, he has lied to the court. The court said that he was the most evasive person, most dishonest person that they'd seen in 33 years. And I could go on and on about all the lies that he's been telling on social media, that the sales reps have been telling people. But those are just some of the main highlights: lying about your experience, your company's experience, your name, your past, having lied to investors, having lied to the court. This man is a liar, and there's no place for him in the asset protection industry. I don't care what he does next. He can go run a pawn shop again. He has been in prison before. He's gone through close to a dozen bankruptcies. He has just a long history of being a fraud.
So, with that being said, I mean, because again, unfortunately, we have many people that think, okay, if it's out there on social media, it's out there, then it's accurate, because if it wasn't accurate, then the government would make them take it down.
Correct.
How?
And that's not right.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
I agree. It's
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
I mean,
know.
that's not the fact, but that's the reality of it right now. How is it that, if I was looking for somebody to do this and I haven't been listening to Gary's, podcast, and not learning about you or anything else, how would I go about, I guess, checking your credentials or whatever to see truly, are you the right person to do asset protection with? Because many people are going to say asset protection, just like there's many financial advisors out there that are
Mhm.
calling themselves tax strategists, and they're not.
So I think it's very important to find out who you are working with. If somebody is hiding their name, that's probably a pretty big red flag. Next, you can look us up at the Florida bar and the Colorado bar. Myself and all the attorneys that work for my firm, we all have perfectly clean records. We've never had any issue. On top of that, you can see that books have been published on asset protection many years ago, showing that we've had quite a bit of experience in the industry. On top of that, you can check out our Google reviews. You can see video testimonials. I am, as far as I know, the only one in the industry that has a foreign trust company saying that we have sent them more business over the past few years than anyone else in the world. And I've got multiple people at trust companies, at different trust companies throughout the world, who are saying the same thing about my law firm. That's third-party verification, which I don't believe anyone else, I've never seen anyone else have.
Okay. But going back, if somebody doesn't know of you, I guess is my point, they've never heard of you, they're talking to some other attorney or group, what can they do to go in to verify that this person is truly an asset protection attorney and setting up and the trust and stuff that they set up are legal?
Well, I mean, for all the reasons I just said, you can look up bar numbers, you can look up reviews, you can check out the testimonials, you can see a long list of continuing education, you can check out our social media, which is not just me talk, but it has third parties as well who I've interviewed, Swiss bankers, trust companies. You can really see that this is not just something that I'm standing in front of a green screen and talking about asset protection. But I have lots of people who back me up, as well as other members of my law firm that you can check out and read all their bios as well.
No, Blake, but what I'm saying is that if it is that they're not coming to you.
Okay, if they're coming,
okay.
if they're coming to somebody,
if they're
somebody
just,
else,
you know, whatever, they're out in Idaho.
Find out the name of the person, find out their credentials, find out how you can verify those credentials through a third party. Because some person out of Idaho could sit here and tell you that they're the greatest asset protection planner in the world, but ask for things in writing and verify those things in writing that they say as well.
Now, earlier you said you can check their bar number. Explain
Correct.
what that is, because not everybody knows what that is.
Every licensed attorney gets a bar number, and every state has a website where you can either type in that bar number or you can type in the attorney's name, and it will pull up their bar number. And you can check to make sure they're still in good standing with the bar.
And does every attorney, even if they're doing the offshore trust, do they need to be licensed in any state that they're doing work?
So every attorney needs to be licensed in a state. Now, the ability to practice law depends on a few different factors, but if we are focusing, and my firm focuses just on international law, we're not doing anything domestic, we are able to help clients from pretty much anywhere in the world.
Okay. So anybody who's listening, if they get that bar number, they also need to know what state that attorney is licensed in. So then that's the state that they're going to go look up if they're in good standing or not.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. From a someone gets the trust set up and they've dealt with you on this, and I know that you guys follow up with them many times and even afterwards, just to kind of make sure that they're keeping up with everything. But people who aren't doing that, what are some of the common mistakes that they're making? Is it that they're buying new businesses, acquiring new things, not putting them in the trust? How does that work?
So we're at the point where you've selected an attorney, then that attorney has got the trust established for you. Yes, the next biggest mistake I see is people not funding, and your trust is not of much use until you put assets into the trust. And the way you do that is you open up an offshore bank account, typically in Switzerland, though we do have relationships in a number of countries. And then on top of that, if you have businesses or real estate, you may want to put those businesses into an LLC or another type of corporate structure, and then transfer that LLC or corporation into the trust. So yes, funding is a very important aspect of the overall plan.
Gotcha. Then who's in charge of the trust?
So a trust has two owners. There's the beneficial owner, and that's the client. That's the one who sets up the trust. That's the one who has a right to receive distributions, and they can make requests of the trustee, who's the legal controlling owner. And the trustee is the one who signs off on most of the paperwork for deciding when assets come in or out. Now, there is a mechanism where the trust can then own an LLC, And the client can serve as the manager of the LLC, giving the client ultimate control over the structure as well. And that's a fine strategy if there's no pending litigation. If there's any pending litigation, then the trustee will step in to manage that LLC, and the beneficiary, the client, can still request their money or direct how the money is invested through a request system.
Now, if somebody were to do this, they're a U.S. citizen, they set up this offshore trust, are they still filing tax returns with the U.S.?
Yes, absolutely. You still have to inform the trustee. I'm sorry, you still have to inform the IRS if you have an offshore trust, but in no way does it increase your tax liability or chance of an audit.
Yeah. Like I've seen things where they're saying, hey, if you do these offshore trusts, you don't have to pay taxes.
That is
So, and
that
I can
is
tell you, I mean, I know
advice
for
to
sure.
run from.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime somebody says you don't have to pay taxes, you want to run the other way.
I would tell you,
Um,
Gary, if we could do that,
yeah,
I would do nothing but that.
yeah,
And I wouldn't live in Miami. I would own all of Miami. But
right.
unfortunately, I don't believe there's a way of doing that.
No, no, definitely not. Um, is there anything from an asset standpoint, if it's intellectual property, physical property, ownership in anything, is there anything that can't be put into that offshore trust?
S corps and retirement accounts. You'll
Okay,
lose your tax elections, tax benefits with those. But otherwise, pretty much any asset someone owns can be protected through the trust.
okay, great. Um, Blake, we went over a lot of stuff here real quickly. That's pretty heavy. And what we went over, just because it is such a complex topic, what have I not asked you you wish I had?
You've asked a lot of the very important questions. I mean, we've gone through the typical profile, addressed some of the misconceptions. We've talked about the benefits of offshore versus domestic. In terms of your offshore options, there's probably 24 different jurisdictions that allow for the use of an asset protection trust. We steer our clients most of the time to the Cook Islands. They've been in the business the longest. They have good case law, which supports the legislation. They have some very good trust companies. It's a very safe place to do business. So that's something else worth knowing as well, that the Cook Islands is generally considered the gold standard for asset protection, and that's where we do the majority of the work. Pretty much any asset can be protected: stocks, bonds, cash, crypto, real estate, businesses. Very important. You want to start your planning as far in advance as possible. You get a much better result if the waters are clear. Though in some circumstances, even with pending litigation, we may be able to do some damage control, but definitely you get the best results by planning ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's with everything, Blake, and it's you always run into that. It's just like lots of times you don't hear from somebody until they're in trouble, and then at that point, lots of times it's too late to be able to help them. So,
Right,
Blake,
right.
if people like what they hear and they want to find out more about you and Blake Harris Law, how can they reach out to you? Where can they find you guys?
Easy to find. Blake Harris Law. Every major social media: TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook, YouTube. I think that's most of them. Blake Harris Law, LinkedIn, Blake Harris Law, or Attorney Blake Harris. My website is blakeharrislaw.com. We've got a team spread out throughout the world. So pretty much anytime you contact us, we should be able to get back to you pretty quickly. We pride ourselves not just on the excellent asset protection service that we provide, but also very reliable, very responsive team.
Great. Blake, I really appreciate your time today, and I think you gave our listeners a lot to think about. And certainly, people need to be thinking about asset protection with the sue happy world that we live in these days.
Gary, rock and roll. It's great being on the show. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate
I
it.
agree. Yep.
All right, this week, my guest Blake Harris with Blake Harris Law, and I'll see you guys next week.